Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Comment Section. And here it is, finally. I know we teased it like it was going to be in the last episode, but it's actually this episode. It is the best movies of the whole year of 2025. That's right. Last time, let's take us through the whole journey of this month of content. We covered our best TV shows, comic books, video games, music. We covered, in just last episode, the worst movies of the year, which turned out to be a hefty list that deserved its own episode. Maybe the first time it's been its own episode. And now we finally get to talk about the big one, even though it's sort of like, even though you'd like to pretend that you think that, like, best production design or best original screenplay is like, what I look for in the Oscars is the best original screenplay. What everyone really is looking for is best picture.
Yes.
And the best movies list from Comment Section.
But my favorite is best documentary short. I love those.
Yes, absolutely. But the best picture equivalent for this podcast is our best movies of the year list. And this is it. This is Best Movies 2025. Let's get into it. Because while you had a longer disliked list than liked list, I have a longer liked list than disliked list. So what I could do is start us out with my honorable mention and my number 5, maybe.
Oh, yes. Go for it.
So my honorable mention, I almost forgot this about it until just a second ago. My honorable mention is actually written by, or directed by Alex Garland, the writer of the 28 Days series.
Oh!
So
quite a year
something
he's had
good,
then.
Something good this year. Because, I did not like 28 Years Later, but he directed a film called Warfare. And I was interested in this movie because last year the movie Civil War, which I think was on my best of list, but as time has gone on, I have some issues with it. Also, weird writing decisions, come to think of it. This movie, because it is adapting a specific real event, doesn't necessarily suffer from the writing thing, because it's a war film about a specific thing that happened on the November 19th, 2006, the Battle of Ramadi. It is a war movie, but in the Iraq War. And part of why I'm calling this an honorable mention, besides the fact that, it's outside my top 5, is there's kind of a specific thing I admire about it, which is that it is really just, and what's the runtime? Not super long, I would assume. 95 minutes. So it's really just a quick 95 minutes of, like, essentially the actual 95 minutes that actually, like, it's almost like a real time being in the absolute chaos of war. And I think this is a movie, like, I would say the way to watch this movie would either be in theaters, which I didn't get to do, unfortunately, or like I did, which was headphones, because the sound design is incredible. I mean, it's just so intense, and so, like, hyper real, and it's upsetting. So on like the way the movie was produced, the way it was shot, the way the sound design, on all those levels, I think this movie is really remarkable. And my biggest, like, takeaway as far as, like, the plot itself, as it were, is sort of like you're left with this, like, gross feeling of, like, my God, all of that chaos, all of that destruction, all of that human suffering for this, like, it's just for nothing. Like, it really just gives you this gross feeling of, like, I mean, hot take, but war is bad. But
right now, some general's like, what?
Yeah, like,
how dare you?
I think there are people who maybe didn't get that enough. Like, they maybe thought it was glorifying it. I don't think that's not how I felt at all, because at the end of the movie, I just felt so gross. Like, I was just like, like, because it's sort of like, what were they doing any of this for? Like, it's so, there's like no, they kind of just dip after all the chaos. Like, it's just for nothing. And that makes you feel so gross. And anytime I get like a unique feeling like that from a movie, you know, I admire it. So there's my honorable mention.
Oh, before you move on, this is a question to ask. Kind of like how people say that they can't really watch Schindler's List a second time.
Yeah.
Is this a movie that you feel like you could watch another time, or is it kind of a like, it's so traumatizing, it's really only a one and done type thing?
It would probably err on that side. The thing is, Schindler's List has a lot more, like, there's a lot more to actively pull on your heartstrings and traumatize you. I would say this errs on that side because it is insanely gory and upsetting. Because it really is like dryly, no soundtrack, just as if you're just watching a battle happen. And that creates like where I think for a lot of people, they would not want to watch it even once or ever again. I could see myself watching it again only if I wanted to like kind of re-immerse myself in, like, reappreciate the way it was made. Like now kind of knowing what happens more, kind of appreciating the way it was shot and stuff. I could see myself watching it again, but yeah. So, my number 5. Here we're officially starting
Top 5!
our best movies of the year list. And have I got a top 5 for you? My number 5 is from the director of my favorite movie of 2019, I think. And that movie was Parasite. Bong Joon-ho came out with a movie this year called Mickey 17.
That's right.
And I really liked it. I kind of forgot that I had visuals for this. But yes, Mickey 17. So yeah, Bong Joon-ho, he's a director that's like, when he puts something out, you gotta check it out. I mean, Snowpiercer is one of my favorite movies ever. And then, of course, Parasite's one of my favorite movies ever. Mickey 17, with Robert Pattinson playing playing multiple characters, because he plays Mickey, and Mickey is a clone. This is essentially a far in the future sci-fi. A spaceship crew exists where they create all these clones to go onto this dangerous planet. Basically, they're expendables. Robert Pattinson's Mickey character has to go out on this planet and search the planet, and he's inevitably going to die, but they're just going to, print out a new one, essentially. But something, oopsie. Mickey 17, they thought he died, and he really didn't. So they print out an 18, and now there's 2 of them. Oh, no, there are 2 of them. And then begins sort of the very fun and chaotic process of, Mickey 17 trying to figure out how to assimilate back into life, and with like people thinking he's dead and stuff, and the way my overall kind of takeaway of this movie is very different, very, very different than especially a Parasite, or even maybe more similar to Snowpiercer, in that it's a quirky sci-fi, but I'd say pretty different from Snowpiercer as well. This felt like Bong Joon-ho almost doing like, dare I say, like something like an MCU movie, but like a non-mainline MCU movie, but good. So basically like a Guardians of the Galaxy, but good, essentially. In that it was a very like it's just very sci-fi, and a lot more, I guess, jokey or lighthearted, or not take itself seriously compared to other things he's done. But yeah, and then there's a very interesting story going on about them trying to communicate with this alien race on this snowy planet they're on, and the leadership thinking of them as bugs and that they should all die and hating them, and Mickey and crew maybe having a little bit more sympathy for this other alien race. But yeah, fantastic. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I almost forgot how amazing Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette's performances were as like the evil rich people on this spaceship. And then of course Robert Pattinson as multiple Mickeys is incredible as well. So overall, fantastic movie. That's Mickey 17. My number 5.
Yes. So many Mickeys. So much Mickey.
Yep. Good thing they didn't get sued by Mickey the Mouse version.
That's right. They could have maybe done Steamboat Willie now that that's public domain.
That's true.
Could have revealed. Wouldn't that have been a great post-credit scene of them all watching them while eating cereal or something?
Yeah. That would... So, yeah, Mickey 17. So you said you have 3 movies, but there's a tie, so there's 4 movies? Is that right?
Yeah.
Then I think it would math out for you to start with your number 3 then, unless that's confusing.
No, we can do it that way. All right. My number 3 best movie of the year is The Bad Guys 2. That's right. One of the newest, I believe it is the newest animated film from DreamWorks. And it feels like it's the most underrated DreamWorks franchise because they don't do a very good job marketing it. Like, I'll be honest. I went to see it a few weeks after it was released because I completely forgot that it came out.
Yeah.
Like, they do not do a good job marketing these movies. So, it has the Bad Guy movies have a great cast of characters, with Wolf being my favorite. It was really fun to see them try to have normal lives and go straight and try to be like, all right, we're not going to be criminals now, guys. So that was really cool. And it had a really interesting story where they are framed and have to go on the run, which is always a type of story I find interesting.
Yeah.
And it did a really good job of mixing different types of stories and genres, where in the movie it goes from being a fugitive story to a heist story to a big climax where they're all in space. And I will say, not all the comedy works in here, but for the most part it does. And I thought that the end of this movie sets up what could be like a third movie, where like the premise sounds like the most interesting out of the 3. Like the way it ends, you're like, I want to see where you're gonna go with this, but we'll see. I don't know how well it did at the box office. Let me check that real quick, because again, they do not do a good job marketing these movies. So, okay, it made $239 million on an $80 million budget. So maybe we'll get a third one, but yeah, overall, I mean, look, DreamWorks right now is doing some really interesting stuff with the Bad Guys franchise, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I didn't see it, but I heard really good things about that robot one they did. I can't remember what it was called. And obviously next not 2026, but in 2027 we're gonna have Shrek 5. So DreamWorks right now, it feels like they're doing such interesting and exciting stuff. Like, I'm more interested in DreamWorks right now than, obviously, more than I am Illumination. Honestly, I'm more interested in what DreamWorks is doing than I am Pixar. Yeah. And kind of Disney Animation right now. I feel like right now, DreamWorks is really crushing it right now. So, that's good to see. The home of Shrek. doing some exciting stuff right now.
Yeah, especially with a Shrek on the horizon. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, that would bring me to my number 4 movie of 2025. And that is a little related in our best TV of the year episode. My number 2 was The Chair Company. And that's because, it's not just that one Tim Robinson thing. It is also another Tim Robinson thing that I was a big fan of this year, and that is Friendship. Big year for Tim Robinson, and I think you should leave fans. Friendship with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd is a live action comedy movie, and it really kind of feels like one long sketch, like or a series of sketches, I guess. But probably a lot of improv in this. But incredibly funny and exactly what I would have hoped for a movie like this. With The Chair Company, I mentioned this, and I think that this is a big factor in the humor of Tim Robinson, which is kind of a love it or hate it thing, I would assume. But with The Chair Company, it was like a lot of the humor comes from Tim Robinson's character is so desperate to get to the bottom of what this chair company is and to clear his name. The lengths he will go create a lot of awkward social situations where he is not obeying any sort of, like, committing every social faux pas in order to get what he wants, and just has no self-awareness. And this movie is very much that too, because Tim Robinson meets Paul Rudd, and it starts to feel like maybe he wants to be friends with him a little bit too badly. Essentially, that's the simple way of putting it. A lot of other stuff happens along the way, but it creates this very, very tense atmosphere through the whole thing, where, like, if someone is like, I would not necessarily recommend if someone's like, oh, I want to laugh to take a load off at the end of the day. I want to just laugh. It's like, no, this is feels kind of dark a lot of times, because it's just like there's this fuse kind of in the background of just kind of feeling like something is gonna blow up at any moment, and I assure everyone it does. There's some really great improv scenes, and a couple of the shots here I picked just because I remembered them being a couple of my favorite scenes. One at a party where Tim Robinson is just hanging out at the drums, and we get to see one of my favorite comedians these days, Connor O'Malley, pop in, and they have like a 5-minute long, I assume, improv scene. So some fantastic performances from people who aren't Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd as well. So, also, this movie this is where it can feel like it is a bunch of sketches that just kind of make up a 100-minute movie, because there is a scene, one of my favorite scenes, probably the best tripping, like drug tripping scene in a movie, my personal favorite drug trip scene in a movie, where Tim Robinson's character is told that there's this thing he can take to trip, and he goes on a wild drug trip. I almost feel like revealing why it's funny makes it not funny, so I'll just say that it is my favorite and funniest drug trip scene in a movie. And it all accumulates to a really good and funny ending. I love that the climax of the movie also kind of has it feels like it ends on a big joke. Like it's a great moment where like the tension breaks, and it creates one of the biggest laughs. It's like when the tension of the climax breaks, it is also one of the biggest laughs, and I thought that was really well done as well. So that is Friendship. I hope I continue to see more Tim Robinson stuff that like isn't I Think You Should Leave, and he just is in like more little movies like this doing what he does best. So there we go. That's my number 4.
Oh yes. So I guess I'll move on to my number 2 then.
Yes.
All right. And my number 2 is Wicked for Good. That's right. The next installment of the Wicked franchise. And I have a hot take. Hot take right here. Because we talked about this on the show before. Like, for the past year, all I've heard is people learning what the second half is about and like being disappointed. So it's been a year-long build-up of like, oh, I know people are not going to be happy. Yeah. Even though I didn't know what the second half of the play was about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. As someone who doesn't know about any of this discourse, doesn't have any frame of reference for this being a hot take, and also didn't know what the second half of the play is, and I don't care about spoilers, I would love to know. I would love to be informed about all that.
Oh yes, I'll spoil it all.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I've been preparing for a year for like people to be upset, and I saw the reviews. First one, very positive reviews. This one, mixed reaction. So I went into this honestly, kind of like dreading it, like, oh boy, here we go. And I will say, I like it more than the first one. I actually like it significantly more than the first one. I think it is a much better movie. I think it's just it has a way more interesting story. Overall, I think maybe one of the jarring things is that this one, compared to the first one, has a darker tone.
Yeah.
And I thought that led to a much more interesting story for both Elphaba, who's the Wicked Witch of the West, and Glinda. And this movie, it's kind of like Revenge of the Sith, where these characters from this prequel become the characters that we know from the classic story. You know, like how you start Revenge of the Sith, it's the prequels, but by the end, they are who they are in the original trilogy. Yeah. And that includes our friend Bach Woodsman becoming the Tin Man. And that includes this Prince Fiero becoming the Scarecrow. And we revisit the Cowardly Lion, who was a little cub in the first one. We see him now as an adult, but yet still with the fears of a traumatic childhood. So there's that. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande both did a great job in their roles again. Another standout was Jonathan Butler as Fiero, who eventually becomes the Scarecrow. And for Fiero, this showed his character as more complex, and it felt like compared to the first movie, where that was more Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo's story, this one felt like it really gave him a full arc compared to how he was more of a supporting character in the first one. So yeah, he was a big standout. And they did do a good job of peppering in moments from The Wizard of Oz while still making it its own story, and it's not a retelling. And I will say, I think one of the mistakes this movie made was that in the trailer, which, I don't know, did you see much marketing like on Hulu or anything for it?
Not a ton.
Well, in pretty much most of the marketing, you see like a bunch of Wizard of Oz stuff. Like you see Dorothy and Tin Man and all that. I think it was a mistake to show that in the trailer, because I went in and kind of expecting like a retelling of the Wizard of Oz. And the Wizard of Oz stuff is pretty much 45 seconds. Like, what you see of Dorothy in the trailers is pretty much all she's in the movie. So I think it was kind of a mistake to show all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and it does brush past all the Wizard of Oz stuff. Like, it's only like small little peppering in here and there to add context to what is happening for Glinda and Elphaba. So one creative choice I knew about ahead of time that I thought was a mistake was that they weren't going to show Dorothy's face in the movie, which I was just like, what? It's almost like, I mean, obviously it couldn't work, but it's almost like admitting, look, we couldn't get Judy Garland. We're just not gonna show her face, and we'll just have a stand-in.
Yeah.
Now, when I heard about that, I was like, what? But in context, knowing how, man, they brush past Wizard of Oz, it's not that big a deal. There's only a couple of times where it's distracting where you don't see her face.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad. There's also a scene between Elphaba and Glinda that turns into a fight where they use their wands as swords. And I was like, what is this? This just feels completely out of place in this movie.
Yeah.
And it is so jarring. And it, in this whole 2 film series, is by far the worst scene. Because you're like, what? And even the dialogue gets bad. Like, she's like, come on, Greenie, let's go. I'm like, what? What? And I'm in the theater, and people are laughing. And I'm like, you're not, like, just jarred? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And even...
Sounds very weird.
Yeah, even my sister, who, like, loves Wicked, whenever I have a criticism, gets so on edge. Or I'm just like, well, is this a plow right here? What? What do you have to say about it? Even she was just like, yeah, that scene is not good. Even because she had watched the play ahead of time, even in the play, I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you know what? Because of how, like, the mixed reaction this movie has, how divisive it is, anytime on social media, whenever you hear people talk about how bad this movie is, that's the clip they show.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I just saw that clip, I would agree with them. Because that clip is truly atrocious. Like,
yeah.
You know, the digital release came out today that has deleted scenes. I'm very curious about what scenes didn't make the cut, but this one did. This weird, like, we're going to have a Jedi lightsaber sword fight made.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But by the end of the movie, it feels wrapped up in such a satisfying way that, honestly, now we talked about how, like, a bad sequel can't, like, ruin a movie. But, like, seeing how the whole thing gets tied up did make me appreciate the first movie more. So, overall, I thought they did a really... overall, this movie was a very satisfying conclusion to the Wicked story, at least for me. Obviously, it is pretty divisive among people, but it worked for me that I liked it more than the first one.
Yeah. Interesting.
By the way, I do have a plot twist that I found out that, like, is more of a behind-the-scenes thing than it is what actually happens in the movie.
Oh, really?
So, one of, obviously, when I talk about sitcoms, for me, the Holy Trinity is Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and The Office. What might be my favorite episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm is one that involves Cheryl's therapist, where Larry and Cheryl have they're married, they go their separate ways, and Cheryl is seeing a therapist, and she constantly is listening to her therapist, and Larry's idea to get her to for the therapist to say good things about him is that he'll stage a robbery, and then he'll be there to kind of save the therapist. And it backfires because the therapist starts falling in love with him, and it is probably my favorite episode of Curb. It might be, in my opinion, the greatest sitcom episode of all time. And when I watched the first Wicked, I was like, oh my God, there's that therapist. There's that therapist in a crowd. I'm like, wow, good for her. She got another acting job, because I had really never seen her before.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I watched a Watch Mojo about the Easter eggs that I found out that the actress who played the therapist in that episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm also wrote the script of both the play and the movie of Wicked.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, what? What?
Wow.
So, quite a twist indeed.
Yeah, that's crazy. I am curious, like, now here, having heard all of the, and this is just a more back to general Wicked question, but so what is it about the second half of the play and the movie? But what is it about the second half? Is it just the tone is darker? Is that?
I think it's from what I've seen online. It seems like the two biggest criticisms are that the tone is darker. The first half, people say, feels dragged out and just kind of repetitive of the first movie.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it is kind of just like, where have we been? What's happened to these characters since then?
Yeah.
So it is a little bit like we're setting up where they've been before we really get the plot moving.
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of the big criticism. I don't know. I haven't really seen anyone like upset of like, oh my god, you mean these characters the whole time were Tin Man and Scarecrow? You just shrunk the universe or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen any criticism of that, but it does seem like being darker and kind of the pacing seems like the first half of the pacing seems to throw people off. And also, one criticism I've heard is that the songs in the second half aren't as good.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think the two best songs they had were in the first movie, but that seems to be it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that, I mean, I can get into my number 3 then, which is one word that starts with a W, also, like Wicked, but it's not Wicked.
Yes.
But it
Here's
is.
W.
Yeah. My number 3 movie of 2025 is also one of the most talked about horror movies of the year. And I really loved it when I saw it. One of my... I guess I had 2 theater-going experiences this year, and this was the really good one. Very happy I
Okay.
saw this in the theater. Weapons.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Heard this one a lot.
Yep. So Weapons, people talked about it a lot. I'm happy that this movie was well received and did fairly well, as far as I understand, because it strikes a weirdness that I like in a lot of horror movies. So Weapons is a movie where, at an elementary school, a teacher, who I want to say, because I mean she's kind of one of the best performances in Julia Garner, and one day she gets to class and none of her students, just all of the students in her class, 20-something kids, have all disappeared. And there is all of this, footage on people's, Ring cameras and stuff of all of the kids running out the front door in the middle of the night with their arms out and just running out into the darkness. And they've all disappeared. And so this movie has this very interesting tension of, the whole town being like, we want to freaking kill this lady, because clearly she had something to do with it. But, obviously, what is she going to do? So it's sort of like this perfect scenario where it's like, how could she have made 20-something kids disappear? What motive would she even have? But the fact that it's just her classroom and the whole town becomes really suspicious. What this movie did, the interesting storytelling thing that this movie did that makes it very creative and stand out from other horror movies. And by the way, I would actually say this is on some levels it is kind of a mystery movie. I mean, it is horror. There are a lot of horror elements in this movie, but the pacing and the structure of it in many ways is more like a mystery movie. Like someone who's a fan of Knives Out or something could probably enjoy this. It has that feel to it more than it has the feel of a horror movie. Because it is about the mystery of figuring out what happened to these kids who ran out into the darkness in the middle of the night. And the interesting thing that is, I've probably mentioned it on here before, but I have a letterbox list, a list of movies, which I just call from a different perspective or something. That's just, I don't know what else to call it, but there are a lot of pieces of media that do this storytelling device of showing you the plot, and then now, record scratch, go back. Now we're going to see the same thing again, but from a different perspective.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
this character's perspective, and then this character's perspective, and then this character's perspective.
I just recently saw a Simpsons episode that did that.
Yeah, I should add that to the list. But this movie, like I was giddy when I realized that this movie was doing, because it literally, like, the screen cuts to black and it shows the name of the character they're about to show you of that perspective. And as you're getting these different perspectives, the pieces of the mystery start to come together as you're seeing more and more of the story. And that just created the most exciting and interesting little mystery and scary little mystery. And I also got to say, amazing ending. This is not like a particularly it's not like a super jokey movie or anything. It's a pretty straightforward mystery horror movie, but there's something about the tension breaking at the end of this movie that just made the whole theater crack up in laughter. In a scene that some people I could see thinking is ridiculous, but I absolutely loved, and I thought it was the perfect ending. So yes, Weapons, highly recommend to anyone who likes horror or mystery, because there's a really interesting mystery going on here, and don't you want to find out what happened to these kids who sprinted out in T-pose in the middle of the night? I'm sure you do. But yes, that is my number 3 movie of the year, Weapons.
Oh, yes. So I guess I'll go on to my tie for number 1 best movie of the year. Ooh, that's right. I really struggled about, like, which one. I was just like, I can't do it. If these top two had come out in different years, they would have easily been the number 1. But the fact that they came out both in the same year, it's just can't do it. I tried. I spent so much time. Like I kept the fact that I kept swapping them back and forth was like I can't do it.
No, I imagine it would take me a lot to get to that point. So I can only imagine that they're so equal.
Yes, and I guess it's a lucky thing that we were lucky enough in a year that, I'll be honest, was not the greatest, that we had both of these come out this year. So I have 2 on here. One that is more well-known. I guess I'll save the more well-known for last. So I'll start with this one. My number 1A is The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie.
Right.
That's right. This was my most hyped movie of the year, the movie I was the most excited for, and it absolutely lived up to the hype. And this movie was such a perfect showcase of why Daffy Duck and Porky Pig are such a great duo. I really thought, kind of like The Bad Guys, it really did a great job of mixing together different type of genres, where it's a buddy comedy, also sci-fi horror. And then sometimes it's action. It did a great job of combining so many different genres. And it was also fun to see Daffy and Porky in a story where the stakes were raised significantly. And it was a story kind of like the Simpsons movie that earned kind of taking them from TV to a movie on the big screen.
Yeah.
And I thought that the humor lived up to the Looney Tunes legacy. Not surprising, because co-writer and director Peter Braungart has been in charge of the Looney Tunes cartoon show that was on HBO Max from 2020 to, I think it ended in 2024. And in a feature film, they did a really good job of, because remember, these characters were created for 7-minute shorts, where it's just like gag, 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 gag. In this feature film, it did a really good job of adding character growth and heartfelt moments, but still making it feel distinctly Looney Tunes. And Eric Bauza, who has kind of been our de facto Daffy Duck voice since 2020, did a great job voicing Daffy. As far as I'm aware, this was also the first time he voiced Porky Pig, and he did a really good job voicing Porky in this movie. And one of the highlights was the alien villain known as the Invader, who was voiced by Peter McNichol. Great casting for that villain. And the animation was great, and it was so nice and refreshing to see a new, traditionally hand-drawn animated movie on the big screen again, because as much as we all like, the CGI cartoons, there's something just magical about that's a drawing that's moving,
Yeah.
So that was really
is.
good. So between this and the Looney Tunes cartoon show, director and co-writer Peter Braungart has done a great job of taking care of the Looney Tunes characters the past few years. And now that show is done, and let's just face it, since the Discovery merger, Discovery has really done a terrible job handling animation, as completely Discovery's done a horrible job taking care of animation. So this sounds like is probably the end of his era of Looney Tunes, and it was really a great send-off to that era. And look, again, as I alluded to before, Warner Brothers, this Discovery merger has been a total disaster. Mm-hmm. It is coming to an end because Netflix is going to buy Warner Brothers. Obviously, now Paramount is trying, but look, I'm not a business person. But when you come off as desperate as Paramount does, I can't see any world where they'll go with the very, very desperate guy. So I do think it's going to go to Netflix. And look, Discovery has really just trashed animation this whole time, between canceling projects and pulling it off HBO Max. And Warner Brothers tried to bury this movie because, I don't know, David Zaslav caught his wife with Yosemite Sam or something. I don't know. It's just, I don't know what this guy has against animation. But I'm very grateful for Ketchup Entertainment saving this movie so that we were able to see it. And they've also, eventually when we do our upcoming 2026 movies, Ketchup, since after releasing The Day the Earth Blew Up, they also saved another Looney Tunes movie, Coyote vs. Acme, that Warner Brothers was, again, going to try and scrap for a tax write-off like they did Batgirl.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad Ketchup saved it after the incompetent leadership at Warner Brothers. And I will say, look, as much as I like Space Jam, as much as I like Looney Tunes Back in Action, The Day the Earth Blew Up is the absolute best theatrical Looney Tunes feature film.
Awesome.
And it was my most hyped movie of the year. Totally lived up to it.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said about the traditional animation. Great that this got saved, and I need to watch it just to appreciate that a movie like this came out in 2025. So.
Oh yes, it's on HBO Max right now.
Yeah. So
the streaming service. I tried to bury it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's awesome. A totally understandable number one. If that's all mine, it will actually not be my number one quite yet, but I will be getting into my number two, second favorite movie of the year.
Oh boy.
And that is a movie from a director who I now think is, for me, 4 out of 4 basically perfect movies. And the bigger the catalog gets, the more comfortable I'm saying is one of my favorite directors of all time, if not just like after David Lynch, my second favorite director of all time. And that is my number two movie is the latest from Ari Aster, director of Hereditary, Midsommar, Beau's Afraid, and now Eddington. Eddington is probably the biggest departure in that, it's not a horror movie, although I would say Beau's Afraid isn't quite a horror movie either. But this is a neo-Western, a Western thriller film. So essentially a Western that takes place in the modern day. It actually takes place in 2020, peak of the pandemic. and it is this small town of Eddington dealing with, you're almost seeing all of these events that we remember from 2020 politically and politically and not, and you're seeing these characters deal with them and the tension that it creates in this town, which of course has amazing performances from Joaquin Phoenix and Pedro Pascal, who kind of are the main like dividing line. Pedro Pascal is a politician in the town, a mayor of Eddington, and he's running for re-election. And because of the tension that the sheriff, who is played by Joaquin Phoenix, because of all the disagreements he has about how Pedro Pascal's character is handling the pandemic and stuff, he decides, you know what, I'm going to run. And then there's this just showdown between the mayor, who thought he was, a done deal and going to get reelected, and the sheriff, who has decided now that he's going to run against him. And it's just a lot of great tension between those two characters. Also, you've got let's see who else is in the cast. There's
quite a cast list right there on the poster.
It really is. And so I'm trying to find a way to appreciate all of them. But yeah, there's so many touches on like every part that we've recognized in our society during that time and has bled into this day. So even though it's like it's like a period piece that takes place 5 years ago, and then but so it still feels so relevant today, even though I know for some people it might feel like 2020 was forever ago. Because there's this sort of new agey kind of group that Emma Stone's character gets sort of tossed into, and she does an amazing performance as well. So basic takeaways from this movie: it has amazing tension, and the latter half of the movie, when it really starts to spin out into something else, is shocking and amazing to behold. I think some people with this movie, inherently the political stuff in this, it's gonna make people have mixed feelings on it inherently if you're gonna have a movie that's so inherently political. I think the main criticism that I would want to mention is that I think that there are some people who read this movie as being like centrist, like read it as like, oh, both sides are crazy, let's make fun of both sides. And I think that is like, I'm sorry, but a little bit of a brain dead analysis of this movie. Like, it just isn't what it's saying at all.
I just want to make sure. Is this only from Reddit you've seen? Like, have you seen critics say that too, or no?
I'm mainly, I'm trying to, I would lean towards, just people online saying this, like random Twitter users or something. But I feel like there's may have been some actual critiques of this from that perspective. But because my thoughts about this movie and what I think it shows amazingly is that while the culture war is happening, while both sides or whatever are going at it, in the background something much more evil is happening. Like billionaire or billion-dollar companies are getting away with stuff while all this culture war crap is happening in the foreground. And so, similarly, if you're paying attention to this movie only by what's happening in the foreground, like, oh, haha, he said something funny that makes Republicans seem dumb, and he says something that makes Democrats seem dumb, like, that's just not... You're not seeing the whole picture of the movie, because I think the main thing to pay attention to this movie is what's happening in the background. Not literally, but, like, what is causing these factors to happen? I think it's actually pretty transparent that that's what the movie is, because there are some, like, you don't have to read into it too much like a David Lynch movie where you'll never tell what it actually means, and maybe it doesn't mean anything. Like, it's not like it's that abstract. There's a particular scene where there is a plane coming in where a company is sending in essentially a team of people to shake things up in the town, and there's a logo on the side of the plane. And the logo is the logo of the tech company that is trying to build a data center in Eddington. Like, all this stuff is there, but I've talked about this with people, and they didn't even notice that. And there's like, it's not even subtext. Like, it actually happens in the main, like, it's not subtext. It's the text of the movie tells you.
It's not like something you really have to struggle to see. It's like presented pretty obvious, or
it's not commented on, so you would have to be paying attention. But it isn't. But it is there. But yeah, very interesting stuff. That's why part of what I loved about this movie, and why I think it may have started a little lower on my list and just crept up all the way to number 2, because I just love a movie that makes me think in the way that this does, where I'm thinking about just everything I just mentioned. That like this movie's critiques of like political parties or political persuasions on the surface, like, I guess it's funny to giggle at dumb types of people, but I ultimately think that's the least interesting thing about this movie, and that like sitting with it and thinking about why what is all that stuff distracting from? That's really my main takeaway, is like, when one person says one dumb political thing, or one person has one crazy cultish belief, what is that distracting from? What's going on in this movie that is distracting from? And what is going on in our real actual reality where that is distracting from? What is the culture war distracting from? And this movie does a great job of that, because ultimately, and I think the last scene of this movie shows this beautifully and very bluntly, while we're all fighting over dumb stuff, they're going to build a data center. I mean, that's literally actually happening where we live. They're trying to build a massive data center. It's scarily relevant. Like, they're just going to completely annihilate all of the water and nature in the world to keep building data centers, and we're going to keep fighting over dumb stuff. Like, yeah. That's all. So, but yeah, that is Eddington, a very poignant movie, and I loved it.
So that's why it says on the poster, hindsight is 2020.
Yes.
At first I was like, oh, did it get delayed a bunch? But
no, it was always, it's a pandemic movie. Yep.
Oh, yes. So I guess I'll go on to what shares the title of my best movie of the year. I wanted to save the kind of the more well-known one for last. And that is Zootopia 2. That's right.
Right.
It is the best Disney animated film since the original one, which is one of like my favorite Disney animated films of all time. And in this one, it continued to show that Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde are one of the best Disney duos. And even though they're both cops, they clearly care a lot about each other. Even though this showed that they are still very different from each other. Well, I should also probably say that even though it's been, my God, 9 years since the first one came out, the movie is set 1 week after the first one. So they're still kind of getting used to each other as partners.
Yeah.
So it does turn into a movie where Judy and Nick are on the run, which, again, I always think is really fun, especially with characters that you really like, seeing them put in that position. And I was really happy to see so many of the characters from the first one back in this one. Like, you have the Chief back. They also, I didn't know this, but do you remember Nick's partner who was like his accomplice in helping with the popsicle stuff?
Maybe vaguely.
Like, you think he's a little kid until he speaks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that the voice actor who did that died like 5 years ago. But they were able to bring him back and use some like alternate takes or whatever to
interesting.
have him still voice the character.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the new characters like Gary DeSnake and Mayor Brian Windancer, voiced by David Puddy from Seinfeld, were also nice additions. It also has some of the best comedy from any Disney movies, and the movie's heartfelt moments also really worked well, especially once you get into like the big climax of the movie. That's where there's like a very heightened sense of danger. It worked very well there. And I really liked the villains that we had in this movie. They felt very sinister and yeah, very great. I think I liked the villains in here more than I did the ones in the first movie. So yeah, we waited 9 years for Zootopia 2, and boy, was this one worth the wait. I've seen it twice. I think I might like it more than the first one.
Wow.
That's
high praise.
Pretty big. So yeah, my top movies of the year, again, they had come out in separate years. They would have easily, but yeah, I couldn't choose. So I had to give my number one slot to both The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, and Zootopia 2.
Yeah, understandable. I mean, yeah. One thing, because I haven't seen Zootopia 2 yet, but one thing, and I was never particularly worried about it. I liked the trailers and stuff, but one thing it does make me think of is like, anytime I see trailers for like a sequel like this or something, there's always like, is the new character going to be just an annoying add-on? We've seen that before, obviously. Yes. The new character is just some annoying add-on that takes away from the other characters. So that the new characters are good is refreshing. And yeah, sounds like you should make a list of movies that have the on the run thing, because that's
that could be cool. Oh, and speaking of which, because you mentioned it, that was also something I was a little worried about too. But the new characters are very much supporting characters. Yeah. It is very much Judy and Nick's still story. They are still in the spotlight.
That's good. Cool. Well, yeah. First ever tie for number one.
Oh, very yes.
Cool. Well, I don't have a tie for number one. I have just my number one favorite movie of 2025 ? Because, well, you know, it came out on December 25th of 2024, but we're counting
Christmas Day.
It makes me...
Look, they knew what they were doing when they decided to wait that late to put it out.
Yeah. So, I mean, them's the rules about end-of-year lists. I made it before, so, I mean, that's just how it goes. But, actually, to be fair, I saw it in 2025. I did not see it when I saw it in January.
And it's not like it's a re-release of something that's like 5 years old or whatever.
Yeah. It is my favorite movie of 2025 is Nosferatu.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Nosferatu. And, it's sort of an easy number one for me because it honestly just... As I was watching this movie, I just was like, this feels like it was just made to appease me as a movie viewer. Like, just being so drenched in atmosphere, you're just drowning in atmosphere. The very, the tone was, they went after the tone over everything, just like, I mean, I remember saying this about this bad comparison for this room, but I remember saying this about the Batman, where it was just like, you went for a very specific tone that felt specific to this movie. Very different thing here, but all this does have a very moody tone and is very blue. One of the bluest movies you've ever seen. And one of my favorite thing, I'm happy that, especially since I didn't see it right away, I'm very happy with myself that I avoided seeing what Nosferatu's actual character design looked like until I saw the movie, because that was something hidden from the trailers and stuff. And actually, this poster on the left here is a pre-release, like it's not the final design, and it's a silhouette anyway. But because the movie really like works you up to it for like seeing Nosferatu's face for the first time and seeing Count Orlok for the first time, and it creates a sort of like, it makes the build up to seeing the vampire feel so tense, and it makes it feel like such a big moment when you do see his face. And I love the character design. One of the best, truly best performances of the entire year from all involved. But, I mean, of course, we gotta specifically shout out Lily Rose Depp, who I think is probably the runaway performance of this movie is Lily Rose Depp. I mean, my God. And, of course, Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok, a.k.a. Nosferatu. So creepy. The fact that he can be Pennywise and this and it's so creepy in such a different way. And, of course, Nicholas Hoult again. Again, a great actor. In this, I can't speak for anything else he was in, but in this, an amazing protagonist to follow. And I also would like to shout out Willem Dafoe's character, who is also a really great performance in this movie. But yeah, it's surprisingly, because around after I watched this movie, I almost immediately watched the original 1920s Nosferatu. I was surprised.
Silent one?
Yep. And
did the one you watched, did it have like music under it, or was it just completely silent?
It has music. But it's music, and then the little frames pop up with what they're saying.
The dialogue.
Yeah. Surprising how, similar the story. I mean, it's also kind of just Dracula, but I was surprised how this new movie really does kind of follow the same path, as it were, of the original. And how they make that work so well now with this more modern telling of it. But yeah, it really just feels like Robert Eggers had to go and tell like this very classic old vampire story and somehow tell it in a way that feels both true to, like, it makes it feel like it's classic. It makes it feel like this is one of the essential vampire stories. And I think that was very successful because of the stylization used in the movie and the trueness to the source material. Also, like, as a sucker for just good, like, could make it your desktop wallpaper sort of scenes in movies, I was gobsmacked multiple times, but I truly think perhaps my favorite scene as far as that kind of thing is concerned is when the empty, driving itself black carriage shows up to pick up Nicholas Holt's character and bring him to the castle. It's such a tense moment, and it looks like beautiful and horrifying at the same time. And I know I already mentioned how great Lily Rose Depp was in this, but one of the best scenes is when she is, twitching and acting, near possessed, and anyone who's seen the movie knows what I'm talking about. Incredible performance and one of the best scenes of the movie. So really, I think I will just leave it at that. I will leave it at that and say that I teased this last episode by saying that not only is this one of like my number one on my list this year, I really kind of too soon to totally tell, but I really would kind of consider this up there with among my favorite films of all time. And part of the reason for that is just how immediately classic it feels. It feels, it did exactly what it set out to do. It told this great vampire story in such a timeless way. Like, I feel the movie will age well, for example. Like, it just feels like this movie will always be there as like the top recommendation for watching a vampire movie. And so with that, yeah, Robert Eggers and all crew created Nosferatu, and it's amazing. So that is my number one movie of 2025 of this list, of this year's list episodes, and and that actually concludes our list episodes, I believe.
That's true.
Yes, so, yeah. Good on you, Nosferatu. And good on you, Looney Tunes and Zootopia 2.
That's true. Well, by the way, I feel like I can ask you this. I'm going to ask most horror people this. Mm-hmm. But, I feel this is a place of no judgment.
Sure.
Is Nosferatu the same thing as Dracula?
It essentially kind of, well, it is based on Dracula, but it's also technically different. It's kind of confusing. I don't know why the 1920s film separated from, it's a remake of Nosferatu, Symphony of Horror, 1922, which was inspired by Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. I would basically, the character of Nosferatu is technically called Count Orlok, and that's a different, I would say it's not the same canon, it's not the same character, but it kind of is. It's...
It almost sounds like back in the day, it wasn't public domain yet, so maybe they tried to find some loophole.
That feels a little like what it is, yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, there we go. You've heard our list of the best movies of the year. Now you have no excuse not to go see them. Go on, load up your favorite streaming service and check out Nosferatu or The Day the Earth Blew Up. Obviously, not Zootopia yet, but got a bunch of great recommendations to you. I believe 4, 6, 10 right there. 10 movies.
Yep.
There you go. You have a little bit of time left of 2025 to try to get there.
Yep.
But, oh yes, guys, there we go for 2025 lists. You know what? Last episode was kind of a downer, but I do like how we ended it with, all right, well, let's talk about the great stuff that came out this year.
You see, it wasn't all bad.
Yes. So, guys, there we go. As you continue to debate what was the best movie of 2025, you may see a little hole open up in front of you. Dive in, guys, and always remember, when talking about movies, TV, and entertainment, to keep falling down that rabbit hole.